Okay, so today we're going to take chapter 1 from book 4, Leisure, Place and Leisure. And the chapter that we are going to take today is um, Leisure, Purpose, and Meaning of Life. Okay, so we will start. I will share the book. So this is chapter 1, and there is one question that is being asked quite a lot in the repeated questions, and that is how did Epicurus view leisure, and there was another one, Plato, I guess. We're gonna see it now. So probably there would be a question that would come from this chapter. It is a really easy chapter, and it's easy to understand, and the concept is not difficult, and it's a small chapter as well, so it shouldn't take as much time to finish it, inshallah. So let's start. Leisure, laziness, and feeling good. What is leisure? Uh, Leisure, perhaps the answer seems obvious. Leisure is the time left over from work and other chores. To define leisure in this way is to define it negatively as the absence of something. To be at leisure is not to be at work. But is this the right way to define it? So when somebody is asking you, what do you mean by leisure? Different people come up with different meanings of what is leisure. And today we're going to see different people, how they are defining leisure, and is it negative or is it a positive meaning of leisure? So here there is one definition, and that is leisure is the time left over from work and other chores. So basically somebody defined leisure as the time that is left after you're done working and after you're done doing your chores. So the time that's left after you're working is the time that is called leisure. So if we see it, it is kind of defined negatively because it's not saying that leisure is fun or anything. It just says it's the time left over for you when you're done doing your responsibilities, that is your work and your chores. So one limitation of this definition is that it does not say what counts as work. So this definition, it's not saying what is work. Now, we know that mothers, mashallah, they work 24/7. They're always working. So is that considered work or is it not considered as work? Or by work, they mean that only people who go work to earn a living. So it is not clear what work is meant over here. So this is a limitation to this definition. And we might start with the thought that work is what people are paid to do, but this seems too much narrow. People can be forced to work without pay. Exactly. Now, there are so many people who go work, not just mothers, let's say interns. There are interns who go and work in companies and places just to get some experience, but they don't get paid. So is that called leisure or is it called work? It is, the definition doesn't explain about that. Other may undertake voluntary work, worked in a charity shop, for example, household chores, and some aspects of childcare are also naturally thought as kinds of work, even when they are unpaid. So is there another way to distinguish between work and leisure? So now they're asking us, the question is, how do we distinguish between work and with leisure? So this is an example that was explained to us by Ms. Fatma. And it's a nice example, to be honest. So there was a picture of a lady lying on a beach, okay? And there was a picture of a man mending a car with his boy. And third, it was a picture of a schoolboy eating his meal. And number 4 was picture of a woman who was running, who was trying to jog. So she asked us the question that, what do you think? Which one is working over here and which one is at leisure? So the most appropriate answer is that it depends upon the person. Now, maybe the person who's lying on the beach is either at leisure, maybe she just went there to have fun, or she's actually a model and she's modeling for a company. She's doing her modeling job at that time. Mending a car, maybe you will think that, okay, mending a car would be a job. Mending a car is a work that you're supposed to, somebody is doing. But how about there are people who are crazy about cars and they do it just for fun? So if a person is a mechanic, maybe mending a car is his job. But if the person is not a mechanic, he works something else and he likes to mend a car at his free time, so maybe he's having leisure. Eating a meal, maybe eating a meal, it could be a job as well. Now, there are people who are food testers who test food. There are critics who come to the restaurants and they check if the food quality is good or not. So this could be a job, or it could simply be a person eating his meal. Going for a run, maybe going for a run. Maybe somebody is actually a gym instructor and she is leading a group of people jogging, or maybe she's just doing it for leisure. So we cannot judge seeing a picture or just reading the activity that if it is leisure or if it is work. It depends upon the person, it depends on what they do, and it depends on what they like to do. So on the face of it, lying on a beach looks like a straightforward example of a leisure activity that seems right if I'm lying on the beach for the sake of it, just to relax and soak up the sun. But suppose that my job is to lie on a beach, perhaps because I'm being paid to model beachwear. In this case, lying on a beach is a kind of work. Similarly, if you imagine someone mending a car, you might assume that he or she is at work. But some people mend cars in their leisure time for their own enjoyment or satisfaction. Eating a meal or going for a run seems to be leisure activities if they are done just to lose some weight. I might well think of these activities as chores. So there seems to be no simple way to divide the activities on the list onto leisure activities and work activities. Whether I'm doing something as work or leisure seems to depend on my reasons for doing it, as explained before some time. So we cannot, just by reading an activity, we cannot say that if this is work or if this is leisure, because it depends upon the person. Now, for me, maybe, I'm a teacher and that's my full-time job, and that's what I work. But at the same time, when I am free, like now, I'm just doing it for leisure. I'm explaining the chapter for leisure, just so I will also benefit from it and others will also benefit from it. So it's not always work. So I'm tired for something clear. I don't think that we need to skip this because it will help us to understand the concepts that's coming up later. So let's see, the suggestion and alternative way of thinking about distinction between, so this part is what we can skip because they're just talking about how can a person differentiate between work and between leisure, and is what the author is asking us over here. Now they're asking us what could be another possible reason, another possible definition for what is leisure. Is that leisure is time spent on activities for their own sake, means you're doing an activity just because you like to do it for its own sake, or it's lazily lying on the beach or busily mending a car might both be leisure activities. So it all depends, and several philosophers came up with several definitions. So we are going to see their definitions, and we're going to understand leisure better. So philosophy and leisure. As we have already seen, a particular activity can be pursued for a variety of reasons. Hence, what is work for one person can be leisure for another, and the ways in which people spend their leisure can change over time. So what could be work for me, it could be leisure for someone else, and it all depends on the person, as we said before. So different philosophers, they came and they tried to explain what leisure is, and let's look at them one by one. So in this chapter, we're going to look at some philosophical questions about leisure. We shall consider how different philosophers have defined leisure, and we shall explore some more concrete issues about its purpose and value. What is the point of leisure? How much leisure is needed to ensure a good life? What should people do with their leisure time? Perhaps surprisingly, these issues lead to some fundamental questions about the nature and purpose of human lives. So there are several questions that arose, and we're going to see it all raises another question, and that is, what is the purpose of human life? So we're going to see there are three philosophers who proposed ideas, definitions for leisure, and we're going to see them one by one. So, okay, so first of all is Paul Lafargue. We're going to see about Paul Lafargue, okay? An important name, don't forget it, it's important. In this chapter, we shall consider the views of four different philosophers, actually. To see the scene, we begin by looking at an expert. The person who wrote The Right to be Lazy is Paul Lafargue, okay? He wrote it in the 19th century, and he argues about what is the importance of leisure. And there is another philosopher called that Robert Nozick. Robert Nozick, he proposed an idea called as thought experiment. We're going to see that as well. And then the third philosopher that we are going to see today is Aristotle and Epicurus, okay? We're not going to go in the chronological order, that is, we're not going to see who said what first, but we are going to see it in a different way, okay? So first we're going to see Paul Lafargue, then we're going to see Robert Nozick, and then Aristotle, and at the end we're going to see Epicurus. So they are pretty important. You have to remember their names and what they proposed. So let's start with Paul Lafargue. Nothing important over here. It's just that the author is giving us instruction of how we are supposed to read. And here we go. So Paul Lafargue on the murderous passion of work. So Paul Lafargue was living in an era that was 19th century. And in the 19th century, it was the peak of industrialization. It was the peak of working hard and low wages. People used to work like so much, and they used to get paid very less. So long hours and still getting paid very less, it really annoyed Paul Lafargue, okay? And he wrote a book called as The Right to be Lazy. And even the people at that time, you know, the big political leaders and the people who set the rules, they were, even if a person had free time, these people used to come up with activities and stuffs that they could do that other people could do. So this really annoyed Paul Lafargue, and according to Paul Lafargue, he wanted, you know, a time where you can be lazy, where you can do nothing, where you can just sit down and do nothing and just relax. So let's see about Paul Lafargue and what did he have to say about leisure. Paul Lafargue wrote the book, The Right to be Lazy, as a contribution to a debate about the nature of work in rapidly developing and industrializing society. So he wrote the book during the time of development and industrialization. It is a short work, a political pamphlet designed to stir workers to protest against long working hours and capitalist exploitation. As I said, at that time, they were having very long working hours and they were getting paid very less. And workers were exploited. They were used to work in the factories, and at the end, they were paid very less. Because it was his intent, it does not have the tight logical structure that you might expect from a piece of philosophical writing, but philosophical ideas can be found in all sorts of places, including political tracts. Lafargue has something to say about what leisure is and about its value, and he says it is some gusto. In the excerpts presented here, Lafargue considered the harmful effects of work on both working people and the capitalist. So Lafargue said that the working at that time, it was really harmful. It had really harmful effects both on the normal people, on the working people, the proletariat, and the capitalists, the people who were employers, basically, who was employing people to come and work. So you might also notice the reference to a technological advance, the liberating machine. So let's see what Lafargue had to say, okay? So what, according to Lafargue, is the value of leisure? What does Lafargue thinks about leisure? Okay, so we stopped and Paul Lafargue. We'll just wait for Hannah to join in as well. So we were talking about Paul Lafargue, that he was really annoyed by the system of industrialization at that time, and he proposed an idea of what leisure is, and he defined leisure negatively. He did not define it positively, but he defined it negatively. So let's see what, according to Lafargue, is the value of leisure. So Lafargue makes a connection between what leisure is and what freedom is. So the first definition that we saw above is kind of what Paul Lafargue defined what leisure was. And according to him, let's read this section. It will be better and we will understand it better. When people are at leisure, he suggests, they are free to flourish both physically and mentally. Although he puts a great deal of emphasis on fun and feasting, he also suggests that leisure leaves room for intellectual development. He asserts that the greatest achievements of humankind have been products of leisure, not of work. So according to Lafargue, the value of leisure is like the value of freedom. So if you're having leisure, it's as if you're having freedom. And he suggests that it helps you, it makes you free to flourish. It allows you to do things that you want to do. It calms you physically and mentally. And he even though says that he agrees with, having fun and, feasting and having fun, but he says that leisure allows you to develop intellectually, to make you more intelligent. And since you will be calm and relaxed, not like work. When you are at work during that time in 19th century, it was all so much pressure at work. They have to produce a number, they used to get a specific number that they have to produce in that day. So let's say that if they couldn't complete the goal, maybe they would not be paid enough. They would be paid less than what they were supposed to get paid. So according to Lafargue, leisure is as if you are having freedom, and it keeps you mentally and physically free, and it allows you to develop intelligent, and it helps you to have time for intellectual development. And the greatest achievement that you can ever have in your life is in leisure time and not at work. So that is what Lafargue has said in what is the value of leisure. Now, what does he take to be harmful effects of the love of work? Now, there are people who love to work. So according to Lafargue, what are the harmful effects of love to work? So Lafargue's main point seemed to be that work is dehumanizing. People addicted to work live cramped and unhealthy lives, unable to realize their full potential as human beings. He adds that the idea that overproduction fuels excessive consumption. We're going to see that sentence again. So according to Lafargue, work is dehumanizing. Work doesn't allow you to be human. And if people are addicted to work, they live an unhealthy life, and they live cramped and cramped as in, so congested and so difficult lives, and they couldn't be human. They couldn't be they cannot live their life as a complete potential human being. So he adds to the idea, and he also says that, overproduction, if you produce more, you have to consume more. Like at that time in the 19th century, as I said, industrialization was at its peak, and people, workers were forced to produce more than what was even needed. So let's say that they were producing pillows, and they were producing so much pillows that it was stocked and stocked and stocked, and there's no one to come and buy it. But the more you produce, the more you have to consume. So if it is all stayed there in the stock, somebody has to come and buy it, so it will go away from there. So people, even if they don't need it, they will buy it because it is there in front of them. And that's why he says that the more you work, the more unhealthy your life is. And anyways, if you overproduce something, you have to consume it, you have to use it, you have to buy it, how much you produce it. So capitalists, far from benefiting from the laborers of the proletariat, waste their lives in unhealthy and pointless indulgence. Lafargue portrays a society chasing its own tail, trapped in a damaging cycle of overwork and overconsumption. So Lafargue, he's arguing, he's saying that it is as if a dog is trying to bite its own tail. Now, it is like it's like a phrase said in English that a dog is trying to bite its own tail. It's as if the dog is trying to eat his own tail. So Lafargue is comparing that with the situation that was there at that time. So he's saying that the capitalists, they are asking the working people to produce more and more and more. And anyways, these working people itself have to buy it again and again and again and again. So they work, they produce, and the same people, they go and they buy it. So it's as if you're doing all this for nothing. And this cycle of producing and buying by the same people was really, really, really annoying. And Paul Lafargue did not like it at all. So as the title of his tract suggests, the aim of Lafargue's argument is to show that people have the right to be lazy, but it is not clear that he says enough to support such a strong conclusion. To say that I have a right to do something goes beyond saying that it would be good for me to have it. Okay, let me explain to you what does he means over here, okay? So Lafargue says that people should have the right to be lazy. Like you should have the right to be lazy. It's okay for you to be lazy. It's fine. So when you use the word right, like you have the right to freedom, you have the right to education. Now you say you have the right to be lazy. In that case, somebody should provide it for you. Like how we said that you have the right to education. The government should provide an education system, and the parents should provide education to their children. And the same way, if you are saying that someone has the right to be lazy, by that you mean that somebody should provide laziness to them. And who would provide laziness for them? The government? The political people? We don't know. It's not clear. He was not clear by the title that he chose. So let's read this part again, and I hope you will be able to understand what I was trying to say. As the title of this track suggests, the aim of Lafargue's argument is to show that people have the right to be lazy. But it is not clear that he says enough to support such a strong conclusion. To say that I have right to something goes beyond saying that it would be good for me to have it. It implies that other people should allow me to have it. Other people should allow you to be lazy. And in some cases, they should also supply it. So people should allow me to be lazy, and people should give me time, or they should provide me laziness. Now, the example over here, it is being said that is that, for example, to say that children have a right to education is not just to say that education would be good for them. It implies that other people should not stop them from being educated, and perhaps the parents or government have the duty to provide an education for them. So when you're saying that you have the right to be lazy, you're saying that people should allow you to be lazy, and that at times people should provide you laziness, not just that it's good for you. So the title that he chose was a little bit controversial, and it was incomplete. Nevertheless, Lafargue does provide some strong reasons to why leisure is of crucial importance in human lives. Underlying his argument is the idea that leisure frees people to live as human beings are supposed to live. So according to Lafargue, leisure helps human beings to live like a human being. The notion of the noble savage uncorrupted by the dogma of work is supposed to represent what a human being would be and should be without the dehumanizing influence of love to work. For Lafargue, then the value of leisure is not simply that it is good for people's health or that it gives them time to do a little philosophy, but that it gives them the freedom to be human. So according to Lafargue, having a time of leisure is not about that if you have time for leisure, you should do some activity. If you have time for leisure, you should do some philosophy. If you have leisure time, you should go and have fun. If you have leisure time, you should have the right to be lazy. You could be lazy. You could do nothing if you want to. And it frees, it lets a human being have the freedom of enjoying his leisure, of being human. So that is what Lafargue is trying to say, that leisure is connected with freedom. Okay, according to Lafargue, leisure is connected to freedom. And if you have leisure, it means that you are having the freedom of being a human being, not just to be like a machine and just work and work and work. And even when you're at leisure, you do some sort of activities. So leisure gives you the freedom of being a human being. That is what Lafargue is trying to say. Now, for this reason, he argues that people should have as much leisure as possible. He recommends that people should restrict their working day to 3 hours, the minimum necessary, he thinks, to provide for a good life. So according to him, he says that a human being should have only 3 hours of work. You should only work for 3 hours. The remaining, you should have leisure and to have a good life. So Lafargue seems to define leisure primarily in a negative way, as freedom from work. So Lafargue is portraying leisure in a negative way. According to him, leisure is the time when you spend after work. Okay, it's like the definition that we saw above in the introduction. So according to Lafargue, he's connecting leisure with freedom from work and freedom to be a human being. Okay, so according to Lafargue, he is defining leisure in a negative way. So make sure when you are writing in your essay about Lafargue, you mention that his definition is he's defining leisure in a negative way, and that is freedom from work, but freedom to be a human being. On one hand, he claims that leisure produces great intellectual achievements. On the other hand, he praises past generations who used their leisure simply to taste the joys of earth. One important theme in his discussion thought is that full life does not require high levels of material wealth. So according to Lafargue, he says that, to have a good life, you should not be wealthy. It's fine if you're not rich. It's fine that you're not having so much money. You can still be happy. You can still have good leisure even if you are not having material wealth. His warnings about the damaging effects of overconsumption are echoed by contemporary concerns about consumerism and access. It would not be hard to update his portraits of overstuffed garments and martyrs to fashion. Still, you may have noticed some ambiguity in Lafargue's attacks on access. He lampoons the greedy capitalist crammed with capons and truffles, while waxing lyrical about the sublime gargantum stomachs of Easter year. So what he's trying to say over here is that he is kind of, making fun of people who are, first of all, working to get money, and then they're using that money on useless stuffs that, according to him, is not leisure. It's just you're spending it back, and it's like a circle of consumerism going on over here, but it has nothing to do with leisure. You're working and you're earning the money, and the money you're using it again to buy stuff that you have worked for. So according to him, leisure, anybody can have leisure. You don't have to be rich to have leisure. And it's fine if you don't work all that long hours to have the money. You can just work 3 hours and you can still have a good leisure. Now, there is another thing that Lafargue also connects leisure with, and that is technology. He connects leisure with freedom, okay? Freedom of what? Freedom from work and freedom to be a human being, okay? And Then he also connects leisure with technology. So let's see how he's connecting leisure with technology. Another important theme in Lafargue's discussion is the relationship between leisure and technology. As he notes, the ancient Greeks tended to assume that extensive leisure was possible for only a minority of the population. This is because slaves were needed to satisfy the basic needs, food, clothing, and so on, of everyday life. He is exaggerating, though, when he suggests that slaves did all the work. In contrast, Lafargue holds that technological advance means that life of leisure is possible for everyone. As he points out, however, technology has yet to free people from the need to work long hours. This, he suggests, is due to the relationship between capitalists and workers. His argument is part of a broader critique of capitalist society. So now how is Lafargue connecting leisure with technology? So according to Lafargue, even in the Greek times and very olden times, in Greek, for them, leisure, only high class people, only the noble people could have the opportunity to have leisure. And the people who were working, the slaves, they didn't have the time to do leisure because they were doing all the work for the higher class people, so that higher class people could have the time to have their leisure. Okay, so Lafargue is suggesting that when the machines and technology will come, technology will take place. It will, for example, slaves are doing all the work for the higher class people. So when the technology will come, the technology will take place of the slaves, and it will do the work of other people. So these people, the working people, the slaves, they can have time to be at leisure. So this is how he connects leisure with technology. He says that if there is technology, then the working class and the slaves will not have to do all the work for the higher class people. It would be the technology and the machines. And then these people, the slaves and the working class, they can have more time for leisure. So this is how he connects technology with leisure. But Lafargue's concern also reflects specific ways in which his society was changing in the 19th century. In fact, over time, technological change did not produce an increase in leisure and paid holidays for working people. Clearly, though, the liberating effect of technology has not been nearly as great as Lafargue thought it could be, and the relationship between technology, work, and leisure continues to be an issue today. So Lafargue told that technology could help people, but at that time in the 19th century, the technology was not as good as it is now. And how he predicted technology to help people and help people to have their own leisure time, it did not turn out to be that way. We know that right now technology, the more technology we have, it is the more work. And everybody has their own opinion. For some people technology is leisure, and for some people technology is work. Again, it depends on the person. So still, the cycle of technology, work, and leisure is a controversial one until now, and it is different for every people. So that was it about Lafargue. Let's just put everything together. So according to Lafargue, first of all, Lafargue defines leisure in a negative way, and that it is freedom from work. Okay, leisure is freedom from work. So the time that is left for you after your work is the time you can have leisure, and that's the time that you can be a human being. Okay, so that is how Lafargue is defining leisure. He defines it in a negative way. And he was really annoyed by the industrialization and the overproduction at that time. So he's saying that a person who loves to work is dehumanizing. It doesn't allows you to be a human being, and it doesn't allows you to enjoy the leisure. And he says that that leisure is the time that you can be lazy. It is fine for you to be lazy in your leisure time. You don't have to do an activity in your leisure time. It's okay. You have the right to be lazy. But that concept is, he did not explain it correctly. That what does he mean by the right to be lazy? Is it just that the people are, you know, it is good for them to be lazy, or does he mean that someone should allow them to be lazy, or it should be that somebody should provide laziness to them? So still, it had a lot of controversies, the topic that is the right to be lazy, and we don't have a correct conclusion for that. Then next, he is connecting leisure with technology. So first he connected leisure with freedom, and now he's connected leisure with technology. So according to him, that the more technology, the more leisure, because technology will do all the work and people will have more time to have leisure and have time to be a human being. So that is all about Lafargue. And next, we're going to see about Robert Nozick. Robert Nozick, we don't have much to learn about him. Yes, Hannah, you raise your hand.
Do you think it will come as an essay? For example, we have to write about Lafargue for 200 words, 300 words, or it's only a small question?
Maybe, you know, they would ask you to compare Lafargue's idea with Nozick's idea, or maybe compare Lafargue's idea with Epicurus, or maybe compare Lafargue with Aristotle. It depends how they're going to ask you. But they wouldn't ask you to just write about one. Maybe they would ask you to write, you know, briefly about all the four, how they, you know, each one talked about leisure, compare how Lafargue defined leisure to how Nozick defined leisure, something like that. They wouldn't ask you to write just
we in details about Lafargue and in details about the other one, then we compare, or we compare directly?
Yes, you see you get information from Lafargue about Lafargue, and you're going to compare it with the information with Nozick. We're going to see the main things that we're going to compare is how they defined it, and was the definition negative or positive? Okay, and then we're going to give examples about it. So these are the three main points that we have to use when we are comparing between each philosopher. So Robert Nozick, his work was in the year 1938 to 2002, and he proposed the idea of experience machine. So let us see about his experiment. One of Lafargue's key points is that leisure is valuable because it gives people the freedom to choose how to spend their time. Okay, the three main points is that was the definition of leisure, negative or positive. We are going to see each one. That Lafargue's, we saw that Lafargue's definition is negative because he's saying that it is freedom from work. Now, next we're going to see Nozick, and then we will see Aristotle, and then we're going to see Epicurus. And then we are going to give the definition. What is their definition? How did they define it? And what did they mean by that? And we're going to give examples of their definition. Okay, so let's go to the experience machine. Value because it gives people the freedom to choose how they spend their time. But what should we do with this freedom? Are some ways of using this leisure more valuable than others? In this section, I shall introduce this question by looking at a thought experiment designed by philosopher Robert Nozick. So his experiment is hypothetical. It's not real. It's just a question of as if. Okay, let's say, if this happened, then what would be the result? So it's a hypothetical question, a hypothetical experiment. A thought experiment is an exercise in hypothetical or what if thinking. A thought experiment invites you to think about a hypothetical, often fantastical situation to consider. Okay, here he's just talking about that his experiment is hypothetical. It's not real, and it is every philosopher had their own ways of defining what is leisure. So he came up, Nozick, he came up with an experiment. He don't really have a definition for leisure. He just came up with experiment, and he's using his experiment to see how other people define leisure. So also, I think when we are when we are going through it, we can also, in our essays, we can also include about Nozick's experiment. Now, later on, we're going to see the author is going to ask us question that, okay, do you think that Lafargue would connect himself to the experience machine, or do you think that Aristotle will be connecting himself to experience machine? So maybe you can also add this part to your essay when you're writing it. We're going to see one by one which philosopher will be connecting themselves to the experience machine. It's just a hypothetical question, not a real experiment. So let's see. Nozick's experiment is one of the most well-constructed and influential the philosopher have devised. The claim that Nozick's thought experiment is designed to test might be expressed like this: nothing else matters to us other than how our lives feel from the inside. So in Nozick's experiment, it could be expressed that nothing else matters other than how our lives feel from inside. If these claims were true, it would have important implication for our discussion of leisure. It would imply that the best way to spend our leisure is in pursuit of things that make you feel good. So the main reason of his experience machine is that if you connect yourself to the experience machine, you're going to feel good. You're going to have the experience of feeling good. So this is what his proposal of the experience machine is. And that is that if you connect yourself to the experience machine, you're going to feel good. So we're going to see each author, each philosopher will they, according to their definition, do we think that they will connect themselves to the experience machine, or they will not? So if they do agree that, they want to connect themselves to the experience machine, then they will agree that leisure is about feeling good. If you want to have leisure, it's about the time you spend in your leisure is the time you want to feel good about something. So if somebody agrees to connect themselves in the experience machine, it means that they want to feel good. If these claims were true, it would have more important implication for our discussion of leisure. It would imply that the best way to spend our leisure in pursuit of things that make you feel good, things that will provide you with pleasant experiences. On the face of it, this looks like a pretty plausible claim. After all, many of the ways in which people do choose to spend their leisure, eating nice food, soaking up the sun, relaxing with friends, seem to be valuable simply because they feel good. So perhaps the value of leisure is that it leaves people free to choose to spend their time in the ways that make them feel good. As I said, it makes you feel good. So if you connect to it, it means that you want to feel good. And most of the time, people, the activities that they choose to do during their leisure time, their ultimate outcome is that they want to feel good about it. So if I want to go swimming, when I go swimming, I feel good about it. And that's how I want to spend my leisure time. So most of the people want to spend their leisure time in a way that they feel good. To test this claim, Nozick tries to describe a situation in which people are free. If they choose to spend their whole life enjoying pleasant experiences, he imagines that people are able to do this by plugging themselves into the experience machine, a piece of virtual reality technology. If the claim above is true, people should be willing to plug themselves into the machine. Conversely, if people are not willing to plug themselves in, that suggests that the claim is false. There is something that they care about apart from feeling good. So Nozick said that if people would agree that they would plug themselves to the experience machine, it means that for them, leisure means that they want to feel good. So if you want to feel good, the only thing you have to do is plug yourself in the experience machine, and you're going to have all the pleasant experiences. You're going to feel good about it. But if people don't want to plug themselves in the experience machine, it means that leisure means something else to them. It doesn't just only mean that it makes them feel good. So we're going to see more about this. So Nozick's experiment might remind you of scenarios presented in science fiction films such as Total Recall and The Matrix, indeed the advent of virtual reality technology. Nozick's experiment seems rather less fantastical than it would when he described it in 1974. Nevertheless, the possibility that he describes is certainly extreme, and at the time I write this, beyond the reach of current technology. The point of Nozick's example is to pose a real practical question, but to allow us to focus as precisely as possible on the claim that he wants to test. So he has a claim, okay? He's saying that he wants to test if leisure for people means just feeling good, or does it have something more than that? Is it something more than just feeling good? Suppose there is an experience machine available to you. Would you plug yourself in? How might you suggest your decision to someone who disagreed with you? So this is just your thought that you have to answer this question if you wanted to connect yourself in the machine or not. So he just came up, Nozick, he came up with a claim. He wanted to test out something. So what he wanted to test out, he wanted to test if people want leisure, and the reason why they want leisure is because they want to feel good about it. So he proposed an idea. Okay, he was like, okay, if you want to only feel good in leisure time, then I have a machine for you. You just plug yourself in and you're gonna have all the good experiences. So would you want to connect yourself in the experience machine or not? And if the people said yes, it means that, okay, the only thing they want from leisure is they want to feel good about it. But if they don't want to connect themselves to the experience machine, it means that there is more than just feeling good at leisure time. They not only want to feel good in the experience, they not only want to feel good in the leisure time, but there is something more than that. So he just came up with the claim, and he's testing it out. So here we're just they're saying that, okay, we're going to check if other philosophers like Aristotle, Epicurus, and Lafargue, what do you think? Will they connect themselves to the experience machine or will they not? So let us see. Now we're going to see Aristotle and Epicurus. This is the last part. I think we will be finished by 5. It's a pretty easy chapter, right? Are you guys able to understand whatever I explained until now before we go to Aristotle and Epicurus? Let me know in the comments if you're able to understand whatever I explained until now. And if you have any questions before we enter Aristotle and Epicurus. Okay, good. I'm glad you're able to understand it. Okay, great. So now we're going to go to Aristotle and Epicurus. They are two Greek philosophers from really old times, and they had different views on what leisure is. So we're going to see Aristotle, how he defined leisure, and how does he defines leisure and how he thinks people should spend their leisure time. And then we're going to see Epicurus and how he thinks that we should use our leisure time. So as Lafargue points out, the ancient societies were far from egalitarian. The wealthiest citizens were able to spend much of their time at leisure, a privilege made possibly by the labor of slaves and poorer citizens. This did not mean that wealthy aristocrats never worked. A large proportion of their time would have been taken up with family matters, business affairs, and military and political duties. Nevertheless, for the most privileged members of ancient society, at least, questions about the value of leisure and how leisure should be spent were far from academic. So here, as we discussed above, is that during the Greek time, the wealthiest citizens, they did not have to work as much because the slaves and the lower class people did most of the work for them. But it doesn't mean that, Rana, you're confused. Tell me what you're confused before we enter into Aristotle and Epicurus, because we are going to use Nozick and Lafargue's ideas in Aristotle and Epicurus. So can you tell me what you're feeling confused so I can cover it up? If you want, you can open the mic and you can talk, it's fine. Let me know which part you're confused so I can explain it again. It's all right, I can explain it to you. Just let me know which part is it. Is it Lafargue or is it the experience machine? Let me know what is the last part, the experience machine. Okay. So Robert Nozick, he came up with a hypothetical means something that's not true. It's just a thing that we think. Sometimes maybe you ask your friends, what if you have a lot of money? What are you going to do with it? Or what if you went to another country? Where would you live? What if you were not born here in Saudi Arabia? You were born somewhere else. Where would it be? So, such kind of hypothetical questions, those kind of questions are hypothetical questions. It means that it cannot happen. It cannot really happen. But we're just asking it to know how other people think. So the experience machine is something like that. It's not real. It has no reality. But Robert Nozick, he came up with this experiment. Okay, he's testing other people, and they're seeing how the other people are replying to his question. So he had a question. Robert Nozick, he wanted to see what people want from leisure time. Is it that he think that, okay, if I'm Robert Nozick, I'm thinking that, okay, what do people need from leisure? Is it that they want to feel good? They just want to feel good. They want to feel happy. If they want to feel good, then what if there is a machine that they can use that they will feel good all the time? So they don't have to go do things. They can just put themselves they can just connect themselves to the machine that makes them feel good, and they're going to feel good. But what if it's not just that they want to feel good? Maybe there's something more to that. Maybe they want to do an activity and that's why they're doing it. So Nozick had a question and he wanted answers to his question. So he came up with this idea and he asked people, okay, what do you want from leisure? If it is that you want to feel good during your leisure time, then how about you connect to the experience machine? The experience machine is going to give you all the good experiences. That means you're going to feel really good. Maybe if you feel good during swimming, you are going to feel good the same way, but you don't have to go for swimming. You can just put yourself in the machine and you're going to feel good about it. So he wanted to test if people just want to feel good during leisure time or it is something else. He don't know what something else is. He just want to check if it is that they want to feel good or it is something else. So what he did, he went and he asked people, and according to him, if people agreed, if people, for example, maybe Robert Nozick came and asked me, okay, Nahla, I have a machine for you. This machine will make you feel good during your leisure time. It means that if you're done from work and you're tired, you don't want to go for swimming, but you want to feel good. You can just connect yourself to the experience machine and you're going to feel good. So do you want to do that? I will say, yes, of course I want to do that. I will not waste my time. I will be tired. I will be going and swimming for feeling good. But if I plug myself in the experience machine, I'm going to feel really good. Then I'm going to do that. And for me, it means that, okay, leisure is when I want to feel good. The only purpose of leisure is that I'm feeling good. So khalas, I don't want to go swimming. I will just connect myself to the experience machine and it's going to make me feel good. So khalas, I'm just going to do that. So now Robert Nozick will think that, oh, okay, for Nahla, it means that Nahla thinks that leisure is feeling good about something. Now Robert Nozick is done with me. Now he's going and asking you. He's coming and asking Rana. I have an experience machine for you. Now, maybe you like to go for a walk. Okay. So Robert Nozick, he comes and asks you, okay, Rana, what do you do in your leisure time? And you say, I go for a walk. I like going for a walk. Okay, so okay, good. Now I have an experience machine for you. that it will make you feel good the way it makes you feel good walking. When you're walking, walking makes you feel good. So if you want, you can feel good without walking. You will just have to sit and connect yourself to the experience machine, and you're going to feel good about it. So do you want to connect yourself in the experience machine? You will say, no, I don't want to connect myself in the experience machine just to feel good. I want to walk. I want to go see the other beautiful places. I want to learn. I want to make my body healthy, and that's why I want to go for a walk. So Robert Nozick will think, oh, okay, now for Rana, it's going for leisure is not about just feeling good about it. Rana wants to walk not only to feel good about it, but she wants to walk because she wants to see the beautiful places, because she wants to keep her body healthy, and because she wants to just walk and see all these new things. So, okay, for Rana, having a leisure time doesn't mean that she just wants to feel good about it. She wants to do more things and not just feeling good about it. So this is Robert Nozick's experiment. It's just an experiment. He just wants to see how people think about leisure. So I think about leisure is the time that I feel good about it, but maybe you don't feel the same way. It's different. So he's just having a question, and he wants to see how people react to that question, how people think about leisure. So he's testing it with this experience machine. Is it clear now for you, Rena? Did you understand this part? Did you understand what is it about the experience machine? Okay, I'm glad that you understand. So the job of the machine is just sensational. Yes, feeling to make you feel good, not something real, right? Yes, you're right, Sausan. It just is sensational. It just makes you feel good. It has nothing else. It's nothing real. It just makes you feel good. And it is just a hypothetical question. As I said, it's not real at all. It's just a question that he's using to see if people, how they think about leisure. Okay, my pleasure. So now we are going to, no, it's not real, no reality, nothing to do with reality. It's just a question like how maybe I will ask you, okay, Rana, if you were right now in America, where do you want to live? You know, such kind of questions. Maybe you're not in America, you're here. Maybe you cannot go to America, but still I'm asking you, if you went to America, where do you want to live? It's such type of questions. So, okay, now let's go to Aristotle and Epicurus on leisure and how they thought about leisure. And we are also going to use the concept of experience machine to check if Aristotle thinks that leisure is just about feeling good, or Epicurus, does he think that leisure is just about feeling good, or is it more than that? We're going to see. So in this first part, nothing really, which as we explained, Aristotle and Epicurus, they are Greek philosophers, and at their time they were slaves who did, you know, most of the work, and they could have more leisure time. But it was not that these higher people, this higher level people, they couldn't work at all. For them, they used to work like, you know, having political work. They had so many other different, just a minute, I'm gonna come back. I will just need just a minute. I am sorry, I am back. Okay, so now we are going to see each one. The main two questions that they were focusing on is Epicurus and Aristotle. There are two questions that they were focusing more on, and that is, how should people spend their time? How should people spend their leisure time? And what is it to be human? So these are the two questions that they are trying to answer, Aristotle and Epicurus. So like Lafargue, Aristotle, and Epicurus assume that the answer to the first of these questions depends on the answer of the second one. So how should people spend their time depends on what is it to be human. However, you might notice that these questions of rather different kinds. The first concerns what people ought to do. It is about morality and ethics. But the second question concerns how things actually are. It involves metaphysics. So now you might be thinking, how are these two questions related to each other? How should people spend their time? And what is it to be human? How are these two questions related to it? How are they connected? I don't see any connection in them, but they are actually connected. So the first question, that is how should people spend their time, is connected to the second question. So you have to know the answer of the second question so you can answer the first question. You don't have to remember this ethics and metaphysics and all that, okay? You don't have to memorize these names. And also, when you're writing about Aristotle and Epicurus, you can mention that, you know, they were focusing on these two questions, and that is, how should people spend their time, and what is it to be human? And you can write that to answer what is it to be human, we have to answer how should people spend their time, we have to answer what is it to be human, and then we will be able to answer how should people spend their time. In studying philosophy, it's often helpful to be aware of the way in which different kinds of philosophical questions interconnect. Understanding the views of a particular philosopher can be like, here, nothing really important. The author is just talking about, you know, different philosophers have had their own different ways of defining leisure, and it all depends upon their aims. So nothing really important over here. So we are going to go to Aristotle. I like Aristotle and I don't like Aristotle in so many reasons, my personal views. We're going to see, and I will tell you why I liked him and why I did not like him. So we're going to start by the Greek philosopher Aristotle. He is one of very huge figures in philosophy, and we're going to see why. In what follows, we shall examine extracts from the two Aristotle works, the Politics and the Nicomachean Ethics. The Nicomachean Ethics is a set of writings on ethical issues compiled by Aristotle's son Nicomacheus. In these writings, Aristotle's main concern is to discover the ultimate aim or objective of human life. In the Politics, he considers how states should be organized to allow some citizens to achieve these objectives. So Aristotle has a son, his name is Nicomacheus, okay? And Nicomacheus, he wrote about his father in a book called as Nicomachean Ethics, okay? And in another book, there is another book, The Politics, okay? So we are going to see Aristotle's views, and there is one question that Aristotle is trying to answer that will help us understand more about how he thinks about leisure. And that question is that, what is the ultimate objective of human life? Okay, this is the question we are trying to find the answer for. What is the ultimate objective of human life? And the answers we are going to get from these two works of Aristotle, and that is the Politics and the Nicomachean Ethics. So Aristotle answers this question in several different ways, all of which he takes to compatible with each other. His principal answer is that the objective of human life is happiness or well-being. So Aristotle answers this question and says that the objective of human life is happiness or well-being. Happiness, we know, well-being is, you know, being good, being in the right, you know, being healthy and wealthy, something like that. So he answers these questions, but he has several ways of actually describing what he means by this answer. So the Greek word is eudaimonia. You don't have to remember this word. But he also sometimes suggests that it is leisure, or more precisely, leisure well spent. So another way he puts his words, that another way to answer the question is that he said that the main objective of human life is happiness or well-being. Another way he says this answer, another way he describes what he says over here is that it is leisure, or more precisely, leisure well spent. So the main objective of human life is leisure well spent. And that's what he have said in his book, in the book Politics. So for Aristotle, leisure and well-being are intimately connected. Living well involves having plenty of leisure and using it in the best possible way. Hence, Aristotle agrees with Lafargue about the central importance of leisure is in human life. So Aristotle, he kind of agrees with Lafargue. Lafargue said different things, okay? We're going to see Lafargue, how Aristotle connects with Lafargue, okay? So according to Aristotle, leisure is well spent when you spend your leisure in the right way. When you spend your leisure well, it is the best thing that you are going to be, you know, it will help you in your well-being. It's gonna help you to be healthy and wealthy. You know, well-being is, you know, living properly, in, you know, living well. So he suggests that leisure is connected to well-being and leisure is connected to human life. For us to have, you know, for human life to be good, you have to be well. You know, you have to be you have to be well. And for you to be well, you should have plenty of leisure time. So that's how he's connecting all the three things. That's the human life, leisure, and well-being. How he's connecting all the three? He's connecting that for a person to have a good human life, he should live well. He should live well. For a person to live well, he should have much leisure time. That's how he's connecting all these three together. But why does Aristotle think that the ultimate objective of human life is to make good use of leisure? So Aristotle says that, you know, you have to make good use of leisure. Leisure doesn't mean that you just have leisure. You should make good use of leisure. There are two assumptions that underline this claim. First, Aristotle assumes that the aim of human life is not to acquire certain things or to achieve a certain state of mind, but to engage in certain kinds of activities. So for him, now before in Robert Nozick, it is just, you know, leisure is sensual. It means that you just have to feel good, okay? But for Aristotle, he says that leisure is you have to, you know, do some kind of activities in your leisure time, so you will make good use of your leisure time. He doesn't think that, you know, leisure time is that, you know, you should feel good about it, but you should put yourself into some activities. You should do some kind of activities in your leisure time. As he points out, if these activities are to constitute the ultimate aim of human life, they must be pursued for their own sake, not just for a means of some further end. So let me just explain to you their own sake and to some further end. Okay, what these two words mean. My scarf is falling off a lot today. Don't like this one. Okay, so there are two things that we have to understand first. The word that is for their own sake, and then another word that is to some further end. So for its own sake, it means that, let me give you examples so you will be able to understand it better. There is a chat. If you mean record, yes, I am recording the lecture, and inshallah I will upload it on YouTube and I will send the link so anybody can have access to it. So even if you want to leave now, you can leave. It's okay. It will be inshallah by tonight. It takes some time actually to get uploaded. So I will, after I'm done recording, it takes like around 2 to 3 hours for it to get saved in my computer, and then for my computer for it to be uploaded in YouTube, it takes another like 1 to 2 hours because it's really long. So inshallah I will be uploading it, and I will be sending the link in the group so anybody can have access to it. You're most welcome. It's my pleasure. So let's see. Now Aristotle, he thinks that the ultimate, we said we are going to focus on two things, okay? I'm going to give you an example. The first example I'm going to give you is about doing something for its own sake. Now, for example, I like to go for swimming. Why do I want to go for swimming? Just because I want to go for swimming. There is no any reason why I want to go for swimming. I just want to go for swimming for its own sake because I like swimming. It's not that because I want to, so it's for its own sake. I'm going to swimming for its own sake, just because I want to go for swimming, or just because I want to have, I just want to go and do swimming. But if I'm an athlete, okay, and I'm going for swimming, to go and compete in the Olympics, then in that way I'm doing swimming to have an end product, to achieve something from it, and that is to be perfect in it, so that I will go and compete in the Olympics. But if I'm just swimming for its own sake, I'm just swimming because I want to swimming, then I'm doing it for its own sake. But if I want to swim because I want to compete in the Olympics, I'm doing it for a reason, and that means that for something at the end that is pursued to some further end. So Aristotle says that you should do an activity in your leisure time for its own sake. For example, Aristotle will say, Minahla, you have to go for swimming just because you want to go for swimming, not because you want to go in the Olympics. If you do that, that means you're not having leisure. It's not called leisure. So that's how Aristotle would tell me if he would see me and you're like, you want to go for swimming for what? Now, let's see we're going to read more, so I'll be able to explain better. Now, for example, he dismisses the idea that the ultimate objective is to make money. Making money, he thinks, is valuable only as a means to further end. So now, if I'm going to Olympics, that means I am going to win, and if I win, I'm going to get money. So the end product is money. But if I'm just going for swimming, just to swim, nothing else, that is leisure. I'm doing an activity for leisure. I'm not doing an activity for an end product. So according to Aristotle, the ultimate aim of human life should not be money. It should be doing something for its own sake. Now, then discovers the ultimate aim of human life is a matter of finding out which activities are worth pursuing for their own sake. My sound is cutting. My internet connection is good. I don't know why. Is it better now or something? Because my internet connection is very near and it's good. Okay, so probably, Hannah, I think you have to go out and come back again. Maybe it's something to do with your internet. Okay, so let's see that the ultimate, according to Aristotle, okay, let's just put things together because it's kind of confusing. Aristotle, he says that he wants to see what is the ultimate objective of human life, okay? So he says that the ultimate objective of human life is happiness and well-being. And for you to be happy and for you to be well, you need to have leisure. And how is the best way to have leisure? Is to do some kind of activity. But do you do this activity for its own sake, or do you do this activity for getting an end, to some end point? No, you do this activity for its own sake. And what kind of activities do I do for its own sake? We're going to answer this question next. So Aristotle says that you have to find activities worth pursuing for their own sake. You just don't do any activity. For example, let's say, according to Aristotle, just playing is not the kind of activity you should choose to be at leisure time, but you should choose something else that is worth pursuing. So Aristotle holds that any activity that is pursued wholly for its own sake is by definition a leisure activity. In other words, Aristotle endorses the positive conception of leisure mentioned in this section. So Aristotle, he is defining leisure positively, and that is, you have to do an activity for its own sake. For Aristotle, leisure is not simply the time that is left over once work and chores have been done. Rather, it is the pursuit of activities that we value for their own sake. So Aristotle, he makes two claims. He says that, okay, Aristotle says that he defines leisure in a positive way, okay? And he says that for a person to have, the main objective of human life is well-being. To be well, you need to have leisure. And to have leisure, you need to have time. And what do you do in your leisure time? You choose certain activities and you do it for its own sake. You don't just do nothing in your leisure time. You choose activities. But what kind of activities? Activities that are worth it, not any kind of activities. So Aristotle choosing how to spend one's leisure is not simply a matter of taste or convenience. It's an issue of profound ethical importance. So here it's just a question that they're asking is, when people think about leisure time, they think about, the time that they want to have fun, or the time when they want to, when they want to just feel good about it. And Aristotle doesn't think that way. He doesn't think that having fun is leisure. It's like you're doing something to have fun is because it's leading you to an end product, and that is to have fun about it. But that's not how it's supposed to go. So how does Aristotle characterize the relationship between work and leisure? According to Aristotle, leisure is the foundation and the objective of all that we do. It implies living happily and well, and is valued for its own sake. In contrast, work is a means to an end. We put up with the trouble and exertion involved in work so that we can have leisure. Aristotle, so that's what, as I explained above. He doesn't think that working is something, that you can have leisure from because it's having an end product and you're doing it for a reason. But leisure it helps you to be happy and well. And what you do in leisure is you do it for its own sake. You don't do it for a reason. You just do it because you want to do it. Now, what does Aristotle take to be the value of play? Aristotle denies that play is valuable in itself. Rather, it's valuable only as a means to an end. This function is to enable people to relax when they are tired from work. He draws an analogy between play and medicine. Both of these, he suggests, are supposed to help people to recover their strength. So Aristotle, he says that playing is not an activity you do during leisure, and it's not leisure. He compares playing with medicine. Okay, it's like when you're sick, you have medicine, so you will be not sick. Okay, you're going to be healthy. The same way play is, you play when you're tired, and you play because you don't want to be tired anymore. You want to get rid of the tiredness. So you do play for a reason, and that is not to get tired anymore. So he says that playing is not something you do at leisure. If you don't do it for its own sake, you're doing it because you don't want to be tired anymore. This implies that play shouldn't be thought of as a leisure activity. A leisure activity is something that we do just for its own sake, but play is properly pursued only as a cure for fatigue. So according to Aristotle, playing is not leisure. Playing is something you do when you're tired and to get rid of fatigue, to get rid of the tiredness. So Aristotle's argument there rests on two premises. A leisure activity is an activity that is valued for its own sake. Play should be valued only as a means to an end. He concludes that playing and having fun are not properly regarded as leisure activities. Instead, play should be compared to, the convalescing after an illness as a necessary concession to human frailty, not as an end in itself. Its proper purpose is to prepare people for work. Leisure, by contrast, is not a preparation for work. Rather, the purpose of work is to create the condition under which people can enjoy leisure. So basically what he's trying to say is that play and having fun is not what you do in leisure, because you do it to get rid of the tiredness, and so that it will let you be, it will make you ready for work the next day. You're not just doing it for its own sake. You're doing it to get rid of the stress, and so that you will go back to work the next day and you will be able to work. So Aristotle knows that in taking this line, he is challenging majority opinion. Most people, he says, work in order to play. But Aristotle does not believe that in this kind of issue can be settled by consulting majority opinion. Instead, he suggests we should consider how excellent or virtuous people choose to spend their leisure. So this is why I don't like Aristotle over here, okay? So, okay, it's nice that he says that for a person to be human, he should be well. And for him to be well, he should have leisure. And what kind of leisure? He should do some kind of activities that's worth it and not just any kind of activities. So he's saying that now if you ask, if you ask any person, they will say that, okay, they like to play, they would like to do something to have fun because they're working. But the correct reason of leisure, the correct meaning of leisure, you should ask it from people who are of higher class, and they're going to say they're the people who make the most out of the leisure, because he says that the people of higher class, they know how to use their leisure properly, and not the other people. Other people don't know how to use their leisure properly. Only the people who are of higher class, they know how to use their leisure properly. So this is the reason why I don't like Aristotle, because he says that the other people, they cannot have proper leisure time. They're not benefiting from their leisure time. Only the higher class people can benefit from their leisure time. But what is the reason why he's saying that? He's saying this because the higher class people, they don't have much work to do. So they will have more leisure time, and they will put themselves into activities for their own sake. Unlike working class people, they will work and they're tired, they come home, they have some fun to get rid of the tiredness, and then the next day, they do this because they want to be ready for work the next day. But higher class people, they're not worried about work the next day. So they just have their leisure time for their own sake. So how then should people use their leisure? Rather than trying to answer this directly, Aristotle approaches the issue by asking a rather different question. What is it to be an excellent human being? Aristotle thinks that excellent people are those who excel at certain activities, not just any old activities, but the very best activities that a human can pursue. So if we know what it is that being excellent human beings are good at doing, we will know which activities are best or most worthwhile. But what is it that excellent people are good at doing? In the Commission Ethics, Aristotle tries to answer this question using an argument that has been known as the function argument. So Aristotle, he says that for a person who, who could make good use of their leisure is people of higher class, because those are the excellent people who are the excellent human beings, and they know how to use their leisure time. And you have to use your leisure in not any kind of activities, but in the highest activities, the activities that that human beings can pursue, the very best activities that human beings can pursue, not just any kind of activities. So the function argument. Now over here, he basically says that I have nothing really to see over here. So he's saying that what is the difference between function and aim? Okay, we're going to see what's the difference between function and aim. Now let's say that a mother and a caregiver, maybe a nursery caregiver. Okay, a mother, it's her function to take care of her children. Okay, because it's her children and it's her function. She has to take care of her children. There's no any other choice. She has to take care of her children because it's her children. But a caregiver, at a nursery, she takes care of children because it's her work. And it's not, it's because of her work. So it's function, it's also function, and this is also function. They're doing it because it's their job, it's their responsibility. Now, we're going to see the difference between function and aim. Now, let's say that a person is, the same example I gave before about swimming. I'm just going and swimming because I like to swim. So it is just an aim. It's something that I like to do, and it's just an aim of mine. But a person who is doing swimming to go and do, to go and compete in the Olympics, it's his function, it's his work. He's doing it because he's working. It's something that he brings him money. He's working, so it's a function. Another example is like a person, maybe a footballer and a normal person. Now, a footballer, he scores a goal and it's a function. But a normal person, he just says, okay, I wish I score a goal. I wish I play soccer. But it's just a wish. It's just an aim. It's not that it's not his function like a footballer, but it's something he wishes for. Now, I swim, but I wish I can be in the Olympics, but I'm not there in the Olympics. So it's just an aim. But a professional swimmer who is in the Olympics, it's his function to be there in the Olympics, and it's not just an aim. It's not a wish. He is there. But for me, it's just an aim. It's just a wish. So this is what is the difference between function and argument. Now, you might think that a function and a job are not quite the same thing. In particular, I can give up being a lecturer, but a tin opener cannot stop being a tin opener. But Aristotle talks about the functions and jobs in a similar way. So I'm going to ignore this distinction. Nothing important to read over here. Aristotle's accounts, a person can have many functions. For example, someone might have one function as a university lecturer, another as a parent, and yet another as an amateur bird watcher. And to these, Aristotle thinks we can add the function that he or she has just as a human being. So Aristotle says that a person is not obliged to just have one function. You can have more than one function. You can be a mother at the same time. You can be a teacher, and at the same time, you can be a student. So you are having different functions. Now you're a mother, you're a teacher, and you are a student. So this is what is the difference between function and aim. And according to Aristotle, a human being can have more than one function. This activity is designed to test whether you are clear about the distinction between a function and an aim. So here we're just going to see if it is an aim or a function. A striker is supposed to score goals. So it's a striker, he's in the football team, and he's supposed to score goals. So it's a function. It's his job to do it. Allison wants to spend a day in Lebanon. So Allison she wishes that she spends a day in London. So Allison, it's just an aim, it's not a function. Ben's dearest friend wished to score a goal for his club. So Ben's wish is to score a goal, but he did not score a goal, but he wishes that he scores a goal. So it's an aim, it's not a function. The Thames barrier is there to prevent London flooding. So there's a barrier in the River Thames, and its work over there is to prevent flood. So it's his function. So here's just the answer of that activity. And now we're going to answer this question. What, according to Aristotle, is the function of human being? So according to Aristotle, what is the main function of human being? Aristotle suggests that the function of a human being is to engage in activities that involve exercise of reason. So Aristotle, he doesn't think that being a mother, being a student, and if you're a mother, that's not your function. But a function is when you do an activity, when you engage in activities that involve exercise of reason, where you can exercise reasoning. So that is when Aristotle thinks that it is a function of human being. Now, the second question is, why does Aristotle reject the idea that the function of human being might be feeding, growing, or sense perception? So he rejects the idea that human being, it's not a function of human being to just feed and grow. It's not a function. It is something, it's something that even animals do too. Animals also feed, animals also grow. But human beings, they should have special function. It should be different from animals. It shouldn't be same as them. Now, third question is, how does Aristotle think that knowing the function of human being will help us to decide what it is to be an excellent human being? So Aristotle suggests that for everything that has a function, success or excellence is a matter of performing that function well. For example, For example, an excellent kite is one that flies well. An excellent pastry chef is someone who excels at making pastry, and so on. As we have seen, the function of a human being is to engage in activities that involve the exercise of reason. It follows that to be an excellent human being is to be excel at rational activities. So in conclusion, now Aristotle, he's coming up with different claims. So first he said that to be a human being, you should be well. To be well, you should have leisure. What kind of leisure? You have to engage yourself in activities. What kind of activities? Activities that are worth it. Now, he says that not everybody can enjoy leisure. Not everybody can have, a good leisure time, a leisure time that's worth it. Only the excellent human beings can. Now, who are the excellent human beings? The excellent human beings are those who have the function of reasoning, who can reason properly. Those are the excellent human beings. And the people who are excellent at reasoning, they can exercise leisure in its best way. So this is his conclusion. So the function of human being is to engage in rational activities. And for everything that has a function, excellence is a matter of excelling in that function. So an excellent human being is someone who excels at rational activities. That's what he comes up with. Just a minute. I am really sorry again. So this is it about Aristotle. So he says that an excellent human being is someone who is excellent at reasoning, who knows how to do rational activities. So, and the person who knows how to do, an excellent human being who knows how to do rational activities will have the best of their leisure time. So what are these rational activities? Now we're going to see that. So we're going to see what are the rational activities, and this is the last part of Aristotle, I think. And then we are going to go to Epicurus. So for Aristotle, the ability to reason that makes us human, it is when we use reason that we realize our true nature as human beings. Aristotle takes this to show that rational activities are the best activities that human can pursue. When people are exercising their reason, they are realizing their full potential as human beings. The most valuable activities of all will be those that involve exercising reason, not for the sake of some further end, but as something precious in itself. Hence, the best way to use one's leisure is to devote it to activities of this kind. So as I explained, that for us to have good leisure time, we have to engage ourselves in activities. What kind of activities? Rational activities. So we're going to see what are those rational activities. You can read in here, but I'm going to summarize for you the main points in this part because it's a lot to read. But what he comes up with, he says that what are the rational activities? The rational activities are activities like, engaging in philosophy, engaging in science, engaging in philosophy, in science, in politics. So these are the kind of the kind of activities you should engage in where you use your reason. So according to him, according to Aristotle, the best way to have, to get the best use of your leisure is to get into rational activities. And what are those rational activities? There are activities like there are activities that are science, that is philosophy, and politics. Those are the kind of activities that you use reasoning. So where you use reasoning and you use your understanding and you learn from it, those are the kind of leisure activities that you should do in your leisure time, so that you will get the best outcome out of it. Aristotle thinks is a means to an end, a way of getting knowledge or understanding, but he suggests that there's another kind of intellectual activity that is pursued purely for its own sake. Once inquirers have discovered some philosophical or scientific truths, they will be able to reflect on them, to understand them, and to appreciate the connections between them. When people engaged in this kind of intellectual reflection, Aristotle argues they are wholly at leisure, exercising reason for its own sake and realizing human nature as its highest and best. Hence, intellectual reflection pursued at leisure is the ultimate objective and the crowning glory of the best human lives. So as said above, that the kind of leisure that human beings, that excellent human beings, the ultimate goal of human beings is to exercise reasoning in their leisure time. And what kind of reasoning? Putting themselves, doing activities that such as politics, philosophy, and science, where you do it for its own sake. You engage in science activities for its own sake, not to reach a certain goal. You're not, for example, some people, let's say, if I upload this on YouTube, somebody will just watch it for its own sake, not because they're having an exam. I know nobody would do it, but it's just an assumption that somebody would open this and listen to it, not because they have exams, but just for its own sake, just like that. So if that kind of mindset, that kind of engagement of activities, that is the best kind of leisure and the ultimate goal of human beings. So the task of politics, Aristotle thinks, is to create a peaceful and well-ordered society in which some people at least will have plenty of leisure. In fact, Aristotle suggests that political activity itself is a rational activity because it involves making rational decisions about what to do. Hence, he allows that it is worth pursuing in its own right. Indeed, for much of Nicomachean ethics, Aristotle seems to be assuming that the people he is discussing are citizens who are active in public life, but a life wholly dedicated to politics, he suggests, would be happy only in secondary ways. This is because political activities is pursued primarily for the sake of further end, whether for personal glory or for public good. Primarily, then it is a form of work, though it is good for particularly important kind. So now he's talking about politics. He's saying that people should people should exercise politics because it's a kind of rational activities. It allows you to take, to think with reasons and to decide. And he says that even though there, some people are in politics, it is because in political activity, it is because they're doing it for their personal good, they're doing it because it's their job, but it is a rational activity and it can be pursued during leisure time. So Aristotle, unlike Lafargue, Aristotle does not suggest that everyone should have plenty of leisure. This is because he thinks that the most people are incapable of pursuing a life aimed at intellectual and rational activity. Children, he supposed, have not yet learned how to use reason. So now, okay, let me summarize what is it given over here. So Aristotle thinks that, he suggests that not everyone can have leisure, should have plenty of leisure. He's saying that everyone cannot do that. Now, let's say children. Children, they cannot engage in rational activities. They don't know how to reason properly, so they cannot make good use of their leisure, so they shouldn't have leisure time. Now, then he says the other people are the slaves and the working class. The working class, they're working, and after they're done, they want to, go play, go have fun, so that they will be not tired anymore and they will be ready for work the next day. And they will also not know how to use the fullest of their leisure time. So they should also not have much of leisure time. Only the excellent human beings should have leisure time because they're excellent at reasoning. So that is what Aristotle suggests. Aristotle's views on women and slavery can be criticized, both on scientific and on philosophical grounds. His assumptions that there is a natural hierarchy among human beings is rejected not only by Lafargue, but also by the liberal philosophers whose ideas you have encountered elsewhere. So many people are actually, against Aristotle because of what he has said about the natural hierarchy of human beings, that some human beings are better than the others and some human beings deserve more than the others. So he says that, he also said that some people are natural slaves, they're born to be slaves, they're natural slaves. So according to Aristotle, they don't have to have much of leisure time, and which is not right. Now, why does Aristotle think that human beings have a function? One claim which you might have found puzzling is that human beings have a function. This notion might not seem odd if you believe that human beings have been created by God. If human beings are God's creation, then it makes sense to suppose that they might have been created for some purpose. But Aristotle does not suppose that God has conferred a function on human beings. Rather, his claim emerges from a theory about what it is to be alive. So Aristotle is saying that if God created human beings, they have created human beings for a reason. But he is kind of against it, and he's saying that God has not put, he did not create, give a function to human beings. It's something that human beings have to do themselves. Exploring this idea will enable us to see more clearly how Aristotle connects the ethical claim that leisure is best devoted to rational activities with a metaphysical claim about what kind of thing human being is. So what is the difference between a living thing and something that is not alive? So if we think about science, that what is the difference between something that is alive and something that is not alive is things that are alive can breathe, can eat, and can move. But things that are not alive, they cannot breathe, they cannot eat, they cannot grow. So here they're talking about the humoral system of how it worked at that time. So Aristotle, he accepts that, living things are what living things are made of and why they become sick and why they die. But as he makes clear in his work called De Anima, this came in one of our questions in multiple choice, he thought that this was not the right way to capture the difference between living and non-living things. So according to Aristotle, the scientific way of differentiating between living things and non-living things is not right. Living things should not be differentiated by non-living things just because of how they are born and how they live and how they what they need, and they become sick and then they die. But it should be done in another way. So he says that a live plant and a dead one, he suggests, is not what they are made of, but what they do. So you should differentiate a living thing from a non-living thing because of what they do. Now, animals, they feed and grow too, but they also perceive what is going on around them and react to it. Human beings have a further ability, the ability to reason about what they perceive and about what they should do. So according to Aristotle, the capacity to reason, that is the distinctive and highest human capacity. So according to Aristotle, the highest function of human being of human being is to function, which is not there in any other living things. Plants cannot reason, animals cannot reason, but human beings can, and it is the highest of the functions in the living among the living creatures. Furthermore, Aristotle holds not only that living things do these things, but that it is their function or purpose to do so. For example, he states that the function of a plant is to feed and grow. This is not to say that the plants want to feed and grow, but rather it is not simply an accident that they have to behave in this way. By feeding and growing, plants are able to carry on feeding and growing and to produce more plants that will continue feed and grow. So he's just saying that, all living things are not same. and you shouldn't compare, you know, living things and non-living things just by you know, like feeding and growing, that they have to eat and they have to grow and they have to die, but instead you have to compare them by what they do. So he says that plants, they feed and grow, so that they will give more plants, and the more plants they will again feed and grow, feed and grow. It's basically the same thing. But human beings, the highest the thing that they can do is reasoning. So that is how you have to, that's the main purpose of human life, and that is reasoning. So there were several objections about this argument, and we're going to see what they are. The first objection is that I suggested earlier, that some people are likely to find the claim that human beings have function rather puzzling. In this section, I have tried to explain how this claim emerges from Aristotle's view about the nature of living things. Nevertheless, it is not obvious that those views are correct. As we shall see, Epicurus presents a serious challenge to the claim that living things have functions or purposes. So here we're just saying the objection is that people think that human beings don't really have a function of reasoning. It's not the highest thing, you know, like religiously, if we think about, you know, the religious people, they would say, you know, the highest purpose of human life is to worship and to do good things in life, so you will go to an afterlife. So there are so many objections on Aristotle's claim that the highest of human function is reasoning. Then the second objection is that, is Aristotle right to put so much emphasis on what distinguishes human beings from other animals? Aristotle assumes that what is important in human life is very different from what is important in the lives of other animals. As we should also see, Epicurus denies the distinction between human beings and other animals as is significant as Aristotle thinks. So now the second objection is that Aristotle says that there is huge difference between animals and human beings. Their purpose of life is not same, but Epicurus is having objection. According to him, animals and other human beings are, you know, so much similar. We're going to see about Epicurus soon. So that was it about Epicurus, about Aristotle. Aristotle, we're going to see the main questions Aristotle views. So what is human being? A human being is a living being whose special function is to reason. What is the value of leisure? If used properly, leisure enables people to realize human nature at its best. What is the best way to use one's leisure? In an activity that involves the exercise of reason for its own sake. That is intellectual reflection. Who is the best position to judge how leisure should be used? Excellent people. That is, people who are excellent at reasoning. So these are the main questions and the answers of Aristotle's views. As we said, that Aristotle says that for human being, the main purpose of their life is well-being and happiness. To be in well-being, you should exercise leisure. What kind of leisure that you have to put, you have to exercise, that is, you have to engage in activities. What kind of activities? Activities that are worth it. Now, which activities are worth it? Activities that exercise reasoning. Now, can everyone do reasoning? According to Aristotle, no. No, not everybody can practice reasoning. Children cannot, women cannot, slaves cannot. Only higher level people can. Only the noble people can. Only the excellent people can. Okay, then who are these excellent people? Excellent people are those who are very excellent at reasoning, who knows how to reason properly. So this is it about Aristotle. Overall conclusion. What is a human being? A human being is a special being whose function is reasoning, and that's how he defines human being. Now, what is the value of leisure? He says that leisure, if it is used properly, it emphasizes, it makes human beings realize what is it lets human beings exercise humanity at its best. And what is the best way to use one's leisure? To involve in some kind of reasoning activity for its own sake and not for an end product. Who is the best position to judge? Who is in the best position to judge how leisure should be used? Excellent people. That is, people who are excellent at reasoning. So that is it all together about Aristotle. Now, here is about the experience machine. Now, do you think that Aristotle will plug himself to the experience machine? No, he wouldn't put himself in the experience machine, because according to him, leisure is not about feeling good. It's about doing activities for its own sake, doing rational activities for its own sake. And putting yourself in an experience machine is not a rational activity. You do not practice reasoning. So he wouldn't put himself in an experience machine. It would be as if it would be just as if you're a cabbage. He compares it in that way. Now, there is Epicurus. There's a little bit more remaining about Epicurus. I thought we could finish it by 5. If that is okay with you guys, because I have an appointment that I have to go and attend.
Good.
So here we are. Let's go back to Aristotle. So basically, every philosopher is trying to explain, give definition for what leisure is, and how can we spend leisure in the right way, in the correct way, or in the most useful way. So as in Aristotle, he's first said that for a human being, it is important that they live a life of happiness and well-being. Okay, that they have to live a life of happiness and well-being. For them to be happy, or for them to live well, for them to achieve well-being, they should have leisure. Okay, now they should have leisure. How should they spend their leisure? So according to him, they should spend leisure by doing certain kind of activities. Okay, what kind of activities should they be doing? They should do activities, they should be doing activities that is worth it, that is worth the time. Okay, so now they should do the activities that is worth it. Then he said that what kind of activities are worth it. So according to him, the best kind of activities are the reasoning activities, the rational activities that uses reasoning. Okay, that uses reasoning. But who can do this? So according to him, not everyone can do reasoning. Not everyone is having that ability to do rational activities like philosophy, like politics, like science. According to him, only excellent human beings can achieve this. Now, who are the excellent human beings? The excellent human beings are those who are excellent at reasoning. And those people are the high-class people who have more leisure time, and not all the high-class people, only men of high-class people can do reasoning quite well, because women have to take care of their family, and women were considered illiterate at that time, and slaves are busy doing the work for the higher class people. So the higher class people will have time to practice leisure, and in their leisure, they should do these activities for its own sake. The activity should be done for its own sake, and not for an end product. Not that at the end you need to gain something from it. No, you have to practice a certain activity, a rational activity, for its own sake. So that is what Aristotle said about leisure. Summarizing the questions, what is a human being? A human being is a living being whose special function is to reason. So that a human being is they are special beings whose special function is to reason. Now, what is the value of leisure according to Aristotle? He said, if used properly, leisure enables people to realize human nature at its best. So he's saying that for us to be human being, we should do what is best And according to him, the best thing is reasoning. And that is something that no any other creature can do. Animals can do it, plants can do it, but only human beings can do it. And according to him, not all human beings can do it, but only men of higher class, the excellent human beings can do it, who are men of higher class. So who is in the best position to judge how leisure should be used? According to Aristotle, excellent people. And that is people who are excellent at reasoning. So this is the summary of Aristotle's view on leisure. And next we are going to see Epicurus. Epicurus is having, almost completely different opinion compared to Aristotle. Now, according to Epicurus, leisure is, Aristotle said that you should practice leisure for its own sake. You should practice activities in your leisure time for its own sake, not for a reason, just because it's your leisure and just because you want to do it. So that is why you have to practice an activity for its own sake. But Epicurus says a different thing. According to Epicurus, we should practice anything in leisure time that gives us pleasure. So the ultimate reason, according to Epicurus, the ultimate objective of human being is pleasure. So this pleasure is the ultimate objective of human being. That is why human beings are built. That is why human beings are there. The ultimate objective of human being are pleasure. This is what Epicurus said. But according to Aristotle, the ultimate objective of human being is what? Is reasoning. But is reasoning for its own sake. It's the well-being and happiness and doing leisure for its own sake. But according to Epicurus, the ultimate objective of human life is pleasure. So this is the difference. By the way, there is a question that is being repeated several times. I saw in the group earlier that, how is Epicurus' point of view is different from Aristotle's point of view. So these are the points that you can note down. Number one is that Epicurus and Aristotle, they have different views. The first thing is the objective of human life. Now, the main objective in human life, according to Aristotle, as we saw above, let me just see the exact statement. It was up here. No. Here, according to him, it is the objective of human life is happiness or well-being. So this is what Aristotle said, that the objective, the main ultimate objective of human being is happiness or well-being. But the ultimate objective, I think it was written somewhere else. If the activities are constitute the ultimate aim of human life, they must be pursued for their own sake, not just for the means of further end. So basically, that is it. If they ask you to write what is the ultimate, when you're writing in the essay comparing Aristotle and Epicurus's point of views, the first thing you can write is the ultimate objective according to Aristotle. The ultimate objective is well-being and happiness. But according to Epicurus, the ultimate objective of human life is pleasure. Now, as a result, he thought that it is paramount importance to explain his philosophical views to a wide audience, although he did not. So here now they're just talking a little bit about Epicurus, nothing really important. I don't think that it might come in the essay, but still, if you want, you can read it. It's just talking what books he wrote and what the people who came and wrote about him. So that is what it is there. Now, here also nothing really important. The author is just talking to us. This is the place, by the way, Plato. This is Plato's Academy. It was interesting for me that all these big philosophers were together at the same time. So this was Plato's Academy. The garden is the place where Epicurus was, and then I think this place, it was Poikal on Agora was where Aristotle was. It is written over here. Yeah, Epicurus is the garden, and Plato's academy. Aristotle's Lyceum. Where is Lyceum? Yeah, it is here. Oh, here. This is where Aristotle was. So they were together, I mean, in that time, and it was really cool. So we're going to see what Epicurus is trying to explain to us. What does he mean by the pleasure that he's saying over there? So what does Epicurus take to be the objective of human life? Epicurus suggests that the objective of human life is pleasure. He identifies pleasure with a state of tranquility, a body free of pain and a mind free of anxiety. So what does he mean by pleasure? By pleasure, he means that a body that is free of pain and a mind that is free of anxiety. That is the state of pleasure that he's talking about. When your body is not hurting, I mean, by that he means when you're physically fit, and when your brain is, when your mind is free of anxiety, as we know, when you're not stressing out. So the second question is, according to Epicurus, why do we need to exercise reason or judgment in our lives? So now Aristotle said we have to practice reason because that is what makes us excellent human beings. But what about Epicurus? What does he think practicing reason is for? Epicurus does not think that we should pursue all pleasures or avoid all pains. So Epicurus is not saying that, you have to go for all the pleasures and that you have to avoid all the pain. But that we should do whatever will bring the most pleasure in long run. We need to exercise reason or judgment in deciding which pleasure to pursue. So according to Epicurus, you should use reasoning to understand what kind of pleasures you have to go for, what kind of pleasures you're choosing. Now, let's say that a murderer has pleasure in killing people. That's crazy. That's not the right type of pleasure. So you have to use your reasoning to choose what kind of pleasure is right to pursue. Not all kind of pleasures can be pursued, and not all kind of pains can be avoided. Now, pain is also, something necessary in our life. So even though it is something that's not nice, but it is necessary in our life. And he doesn't say that you have to always go for all kind of pleasure. You should use your reasoning to choose what kind of pleasure you should go for. So already we can see a stark contrast between Epicurus' ethical views and those of Aristotle. According to Epicurus, the objective of human life is not reason, but pleasure, which he conceives as a state of mental and physical tranquility. Reason or judgment is required in order to attain this aim, but it is not valuable for its own sake. So he's saying that reasoning, Aristotle said that reasoning, you have to do reasoning for its own sake. But Epicurus is saying that no, you should use reasoning to choose what kind of pleasure you should go for, and not just doing it for its own sake. Now, how can we achieve this state of tranquility? Now, Epicurus suggests we need to avoid likely sources of annoyance or danger. As a result, he rejects Aristotle's view of the value of political activity. Now, Aristotle said that you have to practice politics because it is, it is a rational activity. You use reasoning in it, so it is good. You have to participate in politics. But Epicurus says the opposite. He's like, no, you shouldn't go for political activities because political activities gives you a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, and you will not be achieving that state of tranquility. You will not be having pleasure in your life. Instead, you're going to have a lot of stress and anxiety, which is not good for you. The Epicurean attitude to politics is nicely summarized. What does Lucretius have to say about the desire to take part in politics? Lucretius suggests that he desired to take part in politics rests on a mistaken belief, the belief that wealth and status will secure a comfortable life. If we look around, he says, we will soon realize that political activity brings nothing but trouble and danger. A comfortable life can be secured only by living quietly and at leisure. So there's another person called as Lucretius, okay? So he is supporting Epicurus, and he's saying that people think that if you are in politics, you're going to have a comfortable life, you're going to have a lot of wealth, you're going to have a lot of money, and you will have a comfortable life. But in fact, it's false. It's not like that. You are going to have a very rough life, full of anxiety, full of pressure, and you will not enjoy the life that you want. You know, it is more dangerous, and it brings a lot of trouble. You know, a comfortable life, you can get a comfortable life when you are living quietly and you're living at leisure. Then Epicurus then agrees. Epicurus agrees with Lucretius that and says that that leisure has a crucial role to play in human life. But his reasons for taking this view are very different for Aristotle. As we have seen, Aristotle values leisure as an end in itself. So now the same difference, that is, Aristotle says that, you know, in leisure time, we should do something for its own sake, but not to have, you know, to get something from it. You just want to do it for its own sake. But Epicurus is saying that no, what you do in leisure is supposed to bring for you pleasure. So it's not for its own sake. You're doing something in your leisure time so you can get pleasure from it. So that is what is being explained over here, that Epicurus values leisure only as a mean of an end product. That means as an end, you need to get something out of it. And he conceives it not as an opportunity to reach for the stars, but as a safe and comfortable heaven in a dangerous and uncomfortable world. So he says that leisure time should be, you know, it shouldn't be that you should be the best in something. Instead, you should, you know, you should get the opportunity to live comfortable in a very dangerous world, an uncomfortable world. Now, what kind of pleasure does Epicurus mean when he says that pleasure is the ultimate objective of human life? So Epicurus, he's saying that the simple pleasures are the most valuable. That is, you know, like a modest meal, you know, having a good meal, or not expensive, you know, rich meal, like a good meal, a meal that you like, or, you know, when you're talking to your friends, having conversation with your friends, and you're getting pleasure from it, you're feeling happy about it. He also recommends certain kind of intellectual activity, not for their own sake, as Aristotle does, but as a source of pleasure. Philosophical activity is particularly important, both because it is enjoyable. Epicurus thinks that philosophy is enjoyable, it brings pleasure. So that's why it is a nice activity that somebody can do during their leisure time. And also because it, you know, it allows you to, you know, to counteract, to get rid of beliefs that are mistaken and beliefs that brings us anxiety and frustration in people's lives. So this is what Epicurus thinks about philosophy, that Aristotle said that we should, you know, go for philosophy because it's a rational activity. You practice reasoning, and only excellent people can do it. But here, Epicurus is saying that no, you should practice philosophical activities because it is enjoyable, you get pleasure from it, and secondly, because you will have an opportunity to, you know, counteract, to, you know, put out the wrong beliefs, the beliefs that can bring anxiety to people's lives, that can bring frustration to people's lives. Above all, he argues the key to tranquility lies in knowing that pleasure can be found in simple things. Now, the kind of pleasure he's talking about is that he's saying that you can have the you know, the best type of pleasure that you can have is when you understand that pleasure lies in small and simple things and not in big things. And then he says that, people who are rich and who are wealthy, they spend a lot of money in in big things, and at the end, they're just doing it, and at the end they're not feeling pleasure, they're not feeling happy about it. And when they don't have that money and they're not able to do it, they're frustrated. They will feel really stressed out and frustrated that I don't have the money to go and do it. So he says that's why pleasure should be in simple things, in things that you can do, not in things that you cannot do and you have to work to do it. So this is what Epicurus is saying. Epicurus is saying that pleasure, the best value of pleasure lies in simple things and in things that you can do and not in the things that you cannot do. Like, money can bring happiness. You're not saying it cannot, but at one time you won't have it and you want pleasure and you don't have the money. What are you going to do? You're going to feel frustrated that you're not able to have your pleasure because you don't have money. So Epicurus is trying to explain to us over here that pleasure lies in small and simple things, not in things that is related to money. The contrast with Aristotle is plain to see. While Aristotle directs us to aim at the highest things that a human being can achieve, Epicurus' strategy is to avoid risk and learn to desire only things that are within our reach. So another difference between Aristotle and Epicurus is that Aristotle is saying, according to Aristotle, in your pleasure time, you should be able to achieve the best. You should get the best. You should do the best. But for doing the best, you need to work so hard, and not everybody will be able to do the best. So Epicurus, according to Epicurus, he wants to reduce risk, and he's saying that you have to go for things that are within your reach, that you can actually go and get it. Hence, Epicurus does not suggest that leisure should be spent in feasting. By feasting, they mean like, having, big portions of meals on your table and enjoying it, because at times you wouldn't be able to get all those meals. Instead, you should have you should have pleasure in small and simple things and not in big things, that at times when you cannot get it, it will lead into disappointment, anxiety, and stress. Epicurus needed to take special care to emphasize this aspect of his theory, as he complains in the letter of Menocius. He has sometimes misrepresented as recommending a life of excess and debauchery. This misunderstanding of his doctrines persisted for many centuries and is reflected in the use of the word epicure to mean someone devoted to sensual pleasures. So he complains that people are misunderstanding him. People are misunderstanding him, and people are thinking that the kind of pleasure that Epicurus is trying to is saying that is good is the sensual pleasures and the intimate pleasures, and that's not what actually Epicurus is trying to say. Epicurus is trying to say that pleasure lies in simple and small things that is within your reach, and not just the sensual pleasures. Epicure was understood in 18th century England. The cartoonist Thomas Rowland's appreciates Epicure as grievously disappointed when a badly aimed champagne cork overturns a dish of delicacies. You might contrast this image with the portrayal of the Philosopher's Garden by Anatole Strohmeyer. Although Strohmeyer's image is highly idealized, it provides a more accurate depiction of the sober life of leisure that Epicurus recommended to his followers. So now here, people are making fun of Epicurus's proposal, of Epicurus's definition for leisure, of what he is portraying as leisure. So in this picture, it shows that, we can see over here that there is meal, the meal is falling down and wine is falling on it. And all these people, they wanted to, have fun and, have some pleasure by eating. And now it's destroyed, and all these people are disappointed, angry, and stressed out. So Epicurus complained that people are understanding him wrong. That's not what he's trying to portray. And that's what, people are taking him wrong. They're taking wrong ideas from what he's trying to teach, from what he's trying to explain. Now, how might Epicurus have advised someone who is considering whether to plug him or herself in an experience machine? Now, do you think that Epicurus would suggest people to plug themselves in pleasure in experience machine? Yes, he would, because according to him, the ultimate aim of the ultimate objective of human life is pleasure. An experience machine provides you with all the good experiences, all the pleasures experiences. So it basically provides you what is needed as the ultimate objective of human life. So why not plug yourself when you can plug and have all the pleasure of all the pleasure that you need? On the other hand, Epicurus holds that the things that make up that life, simple food, friendship, and philosophy, have no value in themselves, like the salesperson in the audio. Epicurus asserts that what ultimately matters is the character of our experience. The experience machine guarantees to provide the most pleasurable set of experiences that it is possible to have. Hence, an Epicurean might well conclude that plugged in would be the wisest thing to do. Perhaps you agreed that John Pike, when he rejected the salesperson offer. If you so have the reason, nothing really important over here, but what you need to understand that according to Epicurus, he would agree that he could plug himself to the experience machine because it gives pleasure, and that is the ultimate objective of human life. Now, life without purpose. How does Epicurus argue for the claim that pleasure is the objective of human life? Like Aristotle, Epicurus bases his ethical claims on a metaphysical theory, a theory about what a human being is. By seeing how these metaphysical views differ from Aristotle, we can use better understanding why he rejects Aristotle's account of what is valuable in life. Epicurus denies that human beings have a function. So Aristotle said that human beings function, the ultimate function of human being is reasoning. That's the function, that's something that function no any other living creature can do, only human beings, and not all kind of human beings, only men of, only excellent people can do it. So he believes that everything that exists is made up of atoms, minute indivisible particles of various shapes that come together to form complex objects, including living things. He argues that living things were originally produced as atoms banged into each other in random ways. Some of these chance creations were better at surviving than others, and these are the ones whose descendants are living today. None of this, Epicurus thinks, implies that living creatures behave in certain ways in order to carry on living or to produce descendants. They just do behave in those ways, and as a result, they survive and reproduce. Whether or not there are functions in nature is still a highly controversial issue among the biologists and philosophers. So I'm not going to try to settle this issue here, but I think that Aristotle faces a serious challenge from Epicurus on this point. If living beings have not been created by God, it is at least tempting to think that they do not have the purpose or function. They simply are as they are. If human beings do not have a function, as Epicurus argues, does it make sense that makes sense to suppose that there is some particular thing that people ought to aim for? It might be thought that if human beings are just collections of atoms, it does not matter how they spend their time. One pursuit will be just as good as another. But Epicurus does not take this line. He thinks that people ought to aim at pleasure. How does he support his claim? We're going to see that. So I'm just going to explain you the scientific thing that is being said over here before we start. Now, atoms are actually very small little things that make Another, when atoms are coming together, they make complex bodies, and then the complex bodies all together joining, it makes different things. So that is how a human, everything around us is made. Human beings, table, chair, everything, the science behind it. So atoms, they come together to make molecules. Now molecules come together to make a compound, a complex, they come together to form a compound. Now these compound objects, they come together, and they form different things. So it's the same for human beings as well. And according to him, he says that human beings are not having, a specific function. They are just made the way they are made. It's completely random. It has nothing to do with the function of human being. And that is what Epicurus is saying. But Aristotle, he's saying that no, human beings are having a specific function, and that is to reason. But Aristotle says that. But Epicurus, he's saying no, human beings are not having a special function. Now, that's what only you have to remember. You don't have to remember about atoms and molecules and all that that's given over here. But the only thing you need to remember is that Aristotle says that human beings' main function is to reason. But Epicurus is saying, no, they don't have a specific function to perform. Everybody can do whatever they like. And the only thing that they should have from doing whatever they want to do is to get pleasure. That is what they should aim for. Now, according to Cicero, what reason does Epicurus give for his claim that the aim of life is pleasure? Now, Cicero has written down about Epicurus, that how Epicurus is explaining how he claims that the aim of human life is pleasure. Epicurus tries to settle the issue by considering what human beings and other animals actually want, rather than by considering what is appropriate for them to want. In accordance with their function, since he thinks people just do want pleasure, the only question that remains is how to get it. Now, what Epicurus is telling that, human beings and other animals. Now see, here Epicurus is saying that any human being can get pleasure, and he's even saying that animals as well. Whereas Epicurus, he's saying that no, not anybody can practice reason. It's only the excellent of people, and not animals are very different from human beings, and their function is very different from human beings. But Epicurus, he's saying that human beings, all of them, and animals, what they want in life is pleasure, good experiences. It's pleasure. And how they want to get it, it is different. It's different for different people. It's different for different creature. Now, he's saying that, people, human beings, they want pleasure. It is what they want. Now, we cannot say them to do something that is, appropriate for them to want. What is the right thing for them to want? They are human beings and they want pleasure. So let them have pleasure from the small things that they want. Epicurus now the second question is that, what differences can you find between the way in which Epicurus tries to identify the object of life and Aristotle's approach? Epicurus makes no distinction between human beings and other animals. He takes it that every sentient creature has exactly the same aim. In making this assumption, Epicurus is rejecting Aristotle's assumption that there is significant difference between human beings and other animals. Now, as I said earlier, that Epicurus is saying that human beings and animals, all of them, at the end, they want pleasure. And when he says that, he's actually, he is denying the thing that Aristotle said, that human beings are better creatures than animals, and they are completely different and not the same. Now, what is the third question? There's no third question. Okay. Epicurus supports his argument by appealing to the innocent and the sound judgment of a young animal, including presumably young children. Aristotle holds that only excellent people are able to make rational judgments about what is important in life. In contrast, Epicurus suggests that the judgments made by animals and children are likely to be correct. because they have not been corrupted by the mistaken beliefs that cause so much unhappiness among adult human beings. Now, here, Epicurus is saying that anybody can make judgment, anybody can take a decision. You know, even an animal, a child, a small child can take a decision. But Aristotle said that no, only excellent people can take proper decision. But Epicurus is saying that that's wrong, because he's saying that children and animal, they are not corrupted by what other people think and what other people have told them. They don't know about all that, and they decide, they take their decision just you know, based on them and based on what do they want, not based on what other people told them that they should want, or what other people told them that it's the best for them. So this is what he says, that anybody can take decision for themselves, and even children and animals, and especially children and animals, they can take the best decisions, because they are, you know, they are not corrupted. They are not corrupted means that, you know, nobody has destroyed their thinking, that they should take a decision based on what other people thought is best for them, or what other people told them is best to ask for or is best to do. They're just taking decision based on what they actually want. Now, in this table here, they have compared Aristotle and Epicurus's answers for these questions. So I would suggest you, if you want to, compare between Aristotle and Epicurus, read this table, take points from this table, and also the best place to, you know, to find the differences is from this Epicurus section. From Epicurus's garden, you see in each, you saw in each paragraph, they are comparing the idea of Epicurus and the idea of Aristotle. So if you want, you can just read this part to take out the differences between them. Like, you don't have to read the Aristotle's part if you want to, you know, find the differences between Epicurus and Aristotle. But you need to read Aristotle's part, because if they ask you to only write about Aristotle's view on human life and on leisure, then you will have to write only about Aristotle. But if you want to differentiate between Aristotle and Epicurus, I would suggest you to just read the Epicurus part. So let's just conclude this table. So what is a human being according to Aristotle? It is a living being whose special function is to reason. So that is a human being. But according to Epicurus, it is just a random collection of atoms which desires pleasure. So Epicurus is going more towards a scientific, you know, a scientific explanation of what is a human being, and that is a random collection of atoms and who desire pleasure, who wants pleasure. But Aristotle, he's saying that it is a living being who has a special function, and that special function is reasoning. Now, what is the value of leisure? According to Aristotle, that if you use leisure properly, it enables you, it helps people to realize the best form of human nature. The best form of human nature, it allows people to understand or to realize what is the best form of human nature if they practice leisure properly. Now, according to Epicurus, he says that leisure is, you know, is a place where, you know, is a place of pleasure, and leisure is pleasure, a place where it is, you know, away from stress, away from anxiety, and a place where you can have tranquility, where you know, where you can keep yourself away from all the hazards of public life, from all the dangers of public life, from all the hassles, from all the hard work and of public life. So that is how Epicurus is explaining what is the value of leisure. Now, what is the best way to use one's leisure? Aristotle is saying in activities that involves exercise of reason for its own sake. That is intellectual reflection. Now, Aristotle is saying that the best way that you can use your leisure is to do activities where you practice reasoning, where you are doing rational activities like philosophy, science, math, politics, etc. But according to Epicurus, the best way you can use your leisure is in simple pleasures that produce a healthy body and a tranquil mind. So the best way that you can practice your leisure, according to Epicurus, is by doing small things that can give you pleasure, which is good for your body, that doesn't harm your body, and it keeps your mind, free from stress. And tranquil mind means, free of stress and anxiety, a stress-free mind. That's what tranquil means. So a healthy body and a tranquil mind. Now, who is in the best position to judge how leisure should be used? Now, like, who can practice leisure? If we put this question into another form, it means like, who can practice leisure? So Aristotle, according to Aristotle, he says only the excellent people, and that is the people who are excellent at reasoning. And what about according to Epicurus? Epicurus says the best people who can judge how to use leisure is children, animals, and followers of Epicurus. Now, why children and animals? Because nobody tells them, what is the best for them. They take decision purely based on what they want. And the followers of Epicurus, because they follow what Epicurus is saying. So these are the comparison between Epicurus and Aristotle. And they are pretty, contrast. And Aristotle wouldn't plug himself in the experience machine, but Epicurus would plug himself in the experience machine. Yes, Hannah.
If they ask us to compare between both of them, can we put it in a table, or we have to write it as an essay?
As an essay. All our questions are essay type questions. We cannot put it in table, but you can write, like in paragraph 1, you are going to write the introduction. Then paragraph 2, you can write about, what is a human being? Like, you can answer this question. You can write that Aristotle and Epicurus are having different opinions about what is a human being. And then you can write Aristotle's view, and you can write Epicurus's view. Then in third paragraph, you can say that also Aristotle and Epicurus are having different views on what is leisure, what is the value of leisure. And then you write what Aristotle has to say, what is Aristotle's view, and what is Epicurus's view. Then in the fourth paragraph, you can write about that. Furthermore, maybe Aristotle and Epicurus differ in their opinion and what is the best way that somebody could use their leisure. Then according to Aristotle, he says that the best way to do leisure, to practice leisure, is to do reasoning, etc. And the same you're going to do with Epicurus. And then in the fifth paragraph, you can write that who is the best in positioning. Like, you can put in, you can start by saying that finally Aristotle and Epicurus also differ in their opinion on who is the best position to judge how leisure should be used. And you can write about excellent people, children, animals, and followers. But you can use the answers in this table, but make sure you elaborate it and write more about it based on what we took up. What is there up here? All this is summarized in this box. So if you read all that, you can add more to each one of these. So if you do that, I'm pretty sure you're going to get a really good mark if the question comes about Aristotle and Epicurus. Compare between them. So we're almost done. So like the Aristotle function argument, Epicurean argument is open to some challenges. So what are the challenges, the objections that is made to Epicurus? Is Epicurus right to assume that what all sentient beings want is just to be free from pain and anxiety? Is that what all sentient beings is? All the creatures that have emotions. That is what is sentient beings mean. Sentient means beings who are having emotions. Now, plants, they don't really have emotions. They are living, but they don't have emotions, so that they are not under the sentient beings. So the first question is that the first objection is that, does all sentient being want to be free from pain and anxiety, or do they want something else? For example, many animals appear to care about their offspring, and some seem to be just curious. So you don't know if, yeah, if that's what every sentient being wants. Then the second challenge is that Epicurean rejects Aristotle's claim that there is a significant difference between human beings and other animals, and between adults and children. So this is another objection, another challenge, is that Epicurus, he's rejecting Aristotle's claim that human beings are not different from animals, and that adults are not different from children. They're all same. But it is not obvious that he is right about this. So even if Epicurus is right to say that non-human animals and children aim only at pleasure, he still needs to defend the claim that adult human beings aim only at pleasure too. As you have seen, Mosaic thought experiment provides one way to test this claim. So that was it about Epicurus and Aristotle. Here is the conclusion. The conclusion, we're going to read it because it will help us to, give us ideas of comparison, because it's probably all comparison. So Lafargue, Aristotle, and Epicurus all agree that leisure is of crucial importance in human life. So all three of them, they agree that leisure is important and it's a crucial part of human life. The value of leisure, they think, is that it enables people to flourish as human beings. And so the best lives will contain as much leisure as possible. So these are the points that all three of them agree, and that is Lafargue, Aristotle, and Epicurus. They agree that leisure is important and it's a crucial part of human life. They also agree that it enables people to be human being. The leisure time allows human being to be human being, and so the best lives will contain as much. So and also all three of them agree is that the best life of a person is the life that has so much leisure. So these are the 3 points that all three of them agree on. Now we are going to see the points that they disagree. Despite this broad consensus, this chapter has found some significant disagreements between these three philosophers and the nature and about the nature and value of leisure. Epicurus and Lafargue both define leisure in a negative way. So Epicurus and Lafargue, they are defining leisure in a negative way, but Aristotle, he's defining leisure in a positive way. Epicurus, he's saying that it is, leisure should be a time to be away from stress and anxiety and to have pleasure. So he is defining it in a negative way, as Lafargue. Lafargue is also saying that leisure is a time to be away from work. So both of them are defining it in a negative way, as time spent away from demands of work or dangers of public life. For them, leisure is a space in which people are free to live as they please. In contrast, Aristotle defines leisure in a positive way as the pursuit of activities valued for their own sake. Leisure at its best, he thinks, constitutes the ultimate objective of human life. So this point also you can use if you want to write in your essay, that Epicurus is defining it in a negative way and Aristotle is defining leisure in a positive way. So I really like the conclusion of this chapter because it summarizes all the points correctly and we can use it in our essay pretty much very well. But perhaps the most conspicuous disagreement concerns how leisure should be spent. For both Aristotle and Epicurus, this is an issue of pressing importance. Aristotle argues that intellectual reflection is the supreme leisure activity and that the crowning achievement of human life. So according to Aristotle, it is the, intellectual reflection is like doing reasoning and participating in rational activities. And that is what is the biggest achievement of human life. You should do something that in your leisure time, that is the biggest achievement of human life. And only a few people, according to Aristotle, are able to spend their leisure in this way. So only a few people can do it. Not all the people can do it. Not anybody can do it. In contrast, Epicurus holds that leisure is best spent pursuing simple pleasures. And like Lafargue, he thinks that the benefits of leisure can be enjoyed by all. So this is understandable. Now next, as we have seen, this ethical disagreement is rooted in a metaphysical dispute, a dispute about what a human being is. So according to Aristotle, human beings are defined by their capacity to reason. So human beings are special beings who are able to do a special function that is reasoning. He argues that reason is the function of human life and ought to be its aim. For Epicurus, by contrast, human life has no purpose. According to Epicurus, he says that human life has no purpose. A human being is just a collection of atoms that happens to be in pain and in distress. Along the way, we have met some challenges and objections to these accounts. For example, I have suggested that Epicurus' conception for a purposeless world presents a serious challenge to Aristotle's suggestion that living things have functions. Again, Epicurus claimed that people aim at pleasure or tranquility is open to question. Certainly, it does not seem that any of these philosophers has wholly succeeded in defining his position. Nevertheless, as you continue through this book, you may wish to look out for some of the ways in which the ideas discussed here continue to influence conception of leisure in both ancient and modern world, from the tranquility and seclusions of Roman villa to intellectual challenges of judging brass band competition at Victorian seaside. So in conclusion, you can write that, Epicurus and Aristotle have, really contrasting opinion, and you can write about their challenges and objections. In conclusion, that they have certain objections. Aristotle, he says that only certain people can achieve, can have leisure, can make best or use of leisure. And there was two objections in Aristotle, and there is two in Epicurus. So you can use this in your conclusion, and at the end you can conclude everything by saying that both of these philosophers were not able to completely provide a successful definition for what leisure is. So that's how you will be able to conclude it, and we are done with this chapter. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Do you have any questions, Hannah?
No, everything is clear, but I think we have to memorize some stuff, right?
Yes,
especially that.
It was okay. Yeah, like it is this question. I think there is like a 30% chance that this question might come because it's repeated several times. So I would suggest that we go through them, and inshallah all the best for this chapter, and we are done.